go again. So this one will be really short. Just about the Battle of Antietam, and sets us up really nice for the Emancipation Proclamation, which may not have happened. To say smoothly as it did is a little strange, because it was not. There's nothing about it that was smooth for President Lincoln when he finally does issue that proclamation. But some things we need to know is the Battle of Antietam is such a turning point and such an important event in the history of the U.S. Civil War in terms of what it does in allowing or giving the opportunity for Lincoln, providing the opportunity for him to proclaim emancipation for many slaves. Again, not all the slaves, many slaves. So let's look at it. So a couple things. So I just labeled it as offensive and defensive, just to kind of lead us through what the real push is. So, and really from a Lee standpoint, from a Southern standpoint. So let's take a look at this. So Union success in the West. We've seen success by Ulysses S. Grant, mainly in the West. Part of that Anaconda plan we looked at in the last screencast. But the Union success in the West, it forces Lee to act, and act aggressively. He needs to do something. Okay? Now, the something he needs, and for all the reasons we've already mentioned before, he wants diplomatic relationships, alliances with European powers like Great Britain, like France. He needs that. He needs to act. He needs that Saratoga moment like we saw in the American Revolution. So he decides to act aggressively, okay, in the Eastern theater because of the success the Union's having in the West. I really want to hit that home. So Lee, feeling pressure for a victory, crosses the Potomac. He actually invades the North, okay, or the border states. Okay, Maryland's a border state, but it is the Union, so he is invading. He's invading, okay, and really for the first major time. Okay, this is big. Okay, part of the reason why he does that, and by he's invading with a much smaller force than he probably needs. But part of the reason why he feels he'll be okay in the end, and that this will be the decisive victory that he needs, is, among other things, is that McClellan will not act. That's what he's hoping. McClellan, as he's been so sheepish before, will not actually defend the North. He won't actually do this. Honestly, it might not be the smartest move on Lee's part, because even though McClellan is this overly cautious guy, how can he get away with not defending the North? How can he not defend the Union? His main job is to preserve the Union, right? Lincoln's course, his direction is to preserve the Union. So Lee, again, maybe he's acting a little impulsively because he feels he has to be aggressive, but nonetheless. So then we have a defensive by Lee, okay, and then a very small offensive by McClellan. So what I mean by that is the following. So McClellan moves slowly all the time, too slowly, right? Lincoln's actually noted for saying that, basically, to paraphrase, if McClellan's not using the army, I'd like to borrow it, because Lincoln is very frustrated with McClellan. So McClellan moves very slowly, and then twice. So McClellan in this case, attacks Lee, right? Lee has invaded Maryland, McClellan attacks him. But only after giving Lee just enough time, we've already said, if I want to articulate it, I want to emphasize that he's slow, giving time for Lee to take defensive cover in Antietam, or as the Southerners would call it, Sharpsburg, okay, Maryland. So, what I'm trying to make is, McClellan moves so slow that Lee is able to sneak into an area, not sneaking area, but move into an area where he can defend himself, and provide solid defensive cover. If McClellan had immediately attacked, right, the victory would have been much more decisive in the hands of the North. But for a long time, this battle is just viewed as a draw, like nobody won. But we'll see who wins, or who really won as a result of the political events that come after. I mentioned the Emancipation Proclamation before. McClellan beats Lee back to the south, but does not follow and eliminate him. So on two occasions, he moves too slowly. The first being that he allows Lee to provide defense for himself. Didn't have to, because originally McClellan and the Union Army didn't even know about this invasion. They only found out about it, believe it or not, because Southern soldiers, Southern soldiers actually had the plans wrapped up in cigars and left them casually someplace in which the northern soldiers actually would find it, or through their reconnaissance, spies and so on and so forth, found this and told McClellan's troops about it. So that's the only reason they even knew about it. So you'd think that they would have provided a little more intensity, a little more rush in them about making sure that Lee is not able to take defensive cover, and then once you've beaten him, to follow him and eliminate the threat completely of Lee. But he doesn't do that. He allows Lee to go and basically fight another day. So Antietam, in a nutshell, is it's the bloodiest single day of fighting during the war. Its impacts are that Britain and France finally say to the South, it's been almost 2 years of fighting, and we're at a point now, we're a year and a half of fighting, and you know what? We're giving up on it. We've sort of given up on the Southern cause. Britain basically, I can get my cotton elsewhere. I can get my cotton in Egypt and get other places. Excuse me. Alright, sorry. So northern and border states, at least for the time being, the industry there is safe, right? McClellan has at least done that job. Lincoln has a battlefield victory. He needed to, and this is really the main thing. I mean, let's bold this. Let's make that. All right. So Lincoln has a battlefield victory. He needed to issue the highly politicized Emancipation Proclamation because, it hasn't always been, and we'll see in the next screencast, that it hasn't. This is not an easy topic of conversation for the last 40 years. Slavery, right? It's just not. It never has been. And lastly, Lincoln removes McClellan as general in chief, general in charge of in charge of this army, put that he's been commanding so far. So hugely important for what we see next with the Emancipation Proclamation. Okay.